Well, hello everyone. I hope I can be heard clearly. If there's anyone in the audience, you can help me out. I always need a little bit of help just to make sure that we can be seen and heard. Yeah, Michael, can you hear me? Give me a little bit of a yes to say if you can. Saying hello from New York. Looking forward to today's talk. Not sure if you can hear me, Mary. I'm hoping they can. I think yours is on mute. So let's get you off mute. So, whoops.
The doggies start to get a little, interesting.
Okay, Mary, then I hope everyone can hear me. Michael, if you just give me just a little note, if you can hear me, that would be lovely. Making sure that before we go cracking ahead and talking. Right, let me just ask Michael a comment. Michael, can you hear me?
I see us live, Joy. We're good.
We're good?
I have us on the phone.
Great. Okay. I'll put the question out there, see whether he responds or not. But Mary, good afternoon. It's afternoon for me here in the UK. And you are really an expert in my eyes to do with anything to do with AI. I love asking you questions and finding out what's going on in your world because I'm so sort of, dare I say, dumb when it comes to AI. I'm going to give you a proper introduction. So my today's guest is a transformational coach. Mary's also a major tech advocate. She loves everything AI. She's a social media queen. She loves tech, and we're going to find out a lot more about that. And I wanted to invite Mary today just to share what she knows about ChatGPT, how it's being used, how she's using it, and then the bigger question around whether it's making us smarter or dumber. So that's where I'm going to be heading with all of this. And I do want to make sure that we're coming up on LinkedIn as well. That's one of my other main concerns.
Yeah.
Let's see if that's happening. I don't know if I can check or not, but Mary, you're the tech person. Do you think we're live on LinkedIn at the moment?
Actually, I believe we are.
We are. Oh, good. That's brilliant. Okay,
So
okay.
that means I can
So,
share.
yeah, that's good. That's good because I haven't. You know how rubbish I am at all of this. It says click to join live for me, but I'm already here, aren't I?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I can't actually. Let's think we're being seen. So
Yeah, we are good.
we're good to go. Nice one. Okay, let me get myself back in gear then, and make sure that I'm together. So, Mary, the big question for me, really, as an introduction to you, is how did you get into all things tech? Because you really enjoy it. And I won't be sexist, but I am going to be sexist. It's quite unusual for women to be involved in the tech space. I know there's a big movement for getting more women into tech, but you were into tech way before it was even popular.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I don't know if I've ever shared this, but for me, the journey started when I was in college. And when I was in college, I was going for pre-med. I wanted to be a doctor. I loved science. I've always wanted to help people. And I remember, I believe it was my senior year, taking a class on virtual reality. And I loved it because I don't know if you're familiar with ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. That's the company that George Lucas founded. George Lucas, Star Wars, all of that. So special effects and things like that. So I remember taking the class. I still remember the book. It was beautiful and I fell in love with it. So that one class turned into another tech class. And then before I knew it, I was just completely thrust into technology. I worked for an internet service provider out of school. I started to design and develop websites. And I want to take you back to maybe 2003, I believe it was, when I started my web design and development business. And by then I knew how to video edit. I knew how to create graphics. I knew how to do all the techie things. I knew how to troubleshoot internet issues because we that's what we did. We provided internet services for people. And this was something that I did from the year 2000, which is also the year I met my husband. And I met him online. I met him through a personal ad that I posted on AOL back in the day.
Now everyone's going to they're all thinking, what on earth is Mary talking about? Because today people meet via just, swiping left, swiping right. Not that I need to do. I've been in a relationship for 22 years and I'm a married woman, but that's the way that we meet each other nowadays.
Yeah.
Back then, it was the classified adverts in newspapers, magazines.
Mhm. Had to cut it
And
up, scan it, or mail it to somebody. But yeah, so that's what I did, and I've always been very much into technology. I met a lot of friends through it. As an introvert, a self-proclaimed proud introvert, I wasn't the type to go out and meet people and speak to strangers. And I've gotten better at it. But there was a time when I would not even look at a person if I were going out with friends and somebody came up to me to try to talk to me. I wouldn't give them the time of day, as we say here in New Jersey. So yeah, so for me, it was very easy to just meet people online like that. And that's how I met Craig, my husband. And now we're going to be celebrating our 24th anniversary here in, what do you call it? In May. Wow. Yeah.
It's coming up. Congratulations for that celebration coming up. So, Mary,
Yeah.
back to AI, because we had a little bit of a pre-chat, and I know that I'm going to be asking some really dumb questions today. I've been using AI. Whether I've been using it rightly or wrongly, who knows? Who knows? But for me, my first, I suppose it first came on my radar last year, January 2023. I remember at the time just feeling really overwhelmed at its ability to feed something and answer a question into it, and an answer just comes back at you in seconds. It was a
Yeah.
really, really weird experience for me. And I don't know if any of our, viewers, listeners are actually on that same page right now. So I know that it's been a year and a bit in that world for me. For some people, this might be completely new. They might just be catching up right this minute and wondering what the hell is going on. But I have grown to like ChatGTP, and my question one for today was about overlapping it with this whole idea about, will it affect our emotional intelligence? Will it affect our smarts? I know you say that in the USA. We don't say that in the UK. We say your intelligence, probably. So will it affect your smarts? Will it make you dumber? Will it make you smarter? Because I know that there's something happening in my brain, and I do worry occasionally about it.
Mhm.
But Mary, what's your spin on AI and the way that it rolled out for you when you first came across it?
I was
And
a
I'm talking,
little,
and
yeah,
I'll be specific about ChatGPT because, of course, when I
yeah.
say AI, Mary, sorry to cut
Mhm.
you there, but
Yeah.
chatbots have been around, and it's been artificial intelligence has been used in lots of other ways. Okay, so specifically around ChatGTP, and then others that have
Yes.
rolled out since.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I heard about it, I was a little hesitant because I consider myself a decent writer already. And some of the people that I was listening to, because I follow tech news, they were just completely in awe. Gary Vee was promoting it and talking about it. It's going to change everything. So when Gary Vee started talking about it, I started paying attention because there are people who, I follow that may not necessarily be at the forefront of technology and marketing and things like that. So when he started to give some examples, that's when I started to pay attention. So I went ahead and I signed up with it right away. I got an account and I started playing around with it. I started to see how it was that it could help me in my own business, help me with my clients. I do a lot of newsletter writing. I do a lot of website copy, social media, all of that. So for me, it was like, okay, how can this one thing complement what I'm already doing? And it took a little bit of trial and error in the beginning to kind of see whether or not I would want to use the tool. Because, of course, when it first came out, it was ChatGPT 3, whatever. And now the growth and the technology has exploded. So we have to look at things and think about the way that progression works. So we look at the cell phone, for example, when it came out, when the iPhone came out, when this thing came out, I was the first one, like one of the first ones in line to grab it in 2007, right? And then from then on, now we're at the iPhone 13, I believe. And it's been what, how many years? 17 years almost, I believe, that the iPhone came out. And then we look at ChatGPT when that came out. It's been a little over a year, I believe, and the growth, the exponential growth has been massive. So we go from trying to learn something that's kind of like rudimentary, it didn't have updated information. You had to like really be very, very specific. And even then, the information was flawed. And to use it now at GPT-4, is just amazing in the amount of information that you can get from it. You can upload files, you can have it analyze photos for readability. So there are so many applications to it. So for me, once I got on that role, it was nonstop, nonstop. And that one technology led to another and another. So it's been very interesting and fascinating to see the progression and how people are making good use of it. Good use is what I want to
And
focus on.
and the whole thing is, Mary, that you are a real advocate for tech, so you keep on top of everything. I'm a bit slower. I was introduced to it via a group that I was in, and when we were talking yesterday, very briefly, me and you said that you can use the microphone, and I don't have to type anymore. I can actually speak to it, and I wasn't aware of that. I am so dated. I'm
Yes.
so behind with
So
certain
I
things.
love it because I can open up ChatGPT on my phone, and there's a setting, here when you go to ask your question. I don't know if you can see at the it's too bright at the
Not
very, oh,
quite,
there we go.
but
At the
yeah.
very bottom,
Okay, okay,
you
yeah,
see the
uh-huh.
headphone. So
Yeah,
with the
okay.
headphone, I tap on that and I can get into a conversation. So it's the other day, I believe I was going through some public speaking, and I basically I'm asking ChatGPT to help me to become a better public speaker and how it is that I can do things in a different way. So it's nice because you pick the voice that you want to speak to. So you can select the voice, and it's a very pleasant voice. And it's very interesting to hear the intonation in the voice, the empathy in that voice, and the way that that voice is encouraging me to keep going. It's been amazing. So you can just put it down and walk around and have a conversation in your earbuds and continue along. And you can also ask it to repeat what it said. So if you're trying to kind of like memorize something that you're trying to say and it gave you a great idea, you can say, just go ahead and repeat all of that for me now. And yeah, so it's been really, really cool for me to be able to leverage that as well.
Right. Well, you love it, Mary. That's for sure. And I'm one of these people where I will try new things because I don't like to be left behind, but then I don't go all in. I'm trying my best to keep up with it, but I will certainly try that, Mary. I will when we come off this call, I'll get my phone out. I haven't got an iPhone. I've never bought an iPhone. I mean, I'm really like, into the other sort of thing that people use. I'm so untechy. I can't even say what it is. What's it? What's the opposite of the iPhone? It's just normal
Like an Android based.
Android. I was going to
Yeah.
say analog. See, I'm so like out of date with these things. So Android based. Yeah. Today I'm going to look really dumb today. I tell you, no question is going to be a stupid question for me. So yeah. So well, I love the fact that you know about the ins and outs of tech. You love it. You're really passionate about it. So let's kind of fast forward, Mary. Throughout last year, there have been, as you said, lots of questions around the morality that might be happening behind us using, let's say Chat GTP and other sort of like things like that. I see. I haven't even got the languaging. I say things because I don't know what to call it, but I end up saying Chat GTP, so it becomes a very generic name. So I do use that. I also use Claude quite a lot, and Claude has a different kind of way of answering questions, which is nice. But the main concern for me, Mary, is that I think my brain is not going to be used as much as it used to be. I know that I can put stuff into it, I can get stuff back out at lightning speed. I'm very conscious that when they introduced calculators, I stopped trying to work things out. So any kind of mathematical thing, I just never used my brain anymore. I also noticed that I stopped memorizing phone numbers too. There's a lot of things that I've stopped doing. Whether that's good or whether it's bad, I don't know, which is why the question was, Mary, is it this emotional intelligence, which is our kind of awareness of ourself and our emotions and, having more empathy, having good motivation, having good interpersonal skills. I'm concerned, I think, about it. It's going to take away some of that. So we'll become less emotionally intelligent. I don't have any proof yet, Mary, but that is one of my concerns.
And it's a valid concern. What you said there hits it in the head because when we have a calculator, we rely on that. Now, I went to high school in Peru. That's where I'm from, and there, when you do math, even when you're trying to figure out the square root of something, you don't use a calculator. So when I came back to the States, all of a sudden, okay, calculator this, the kids carry their calculators to school, etc. So yeah, there is a valid concern, of course. Now at this point, am I going to try to get the square root of 323 on paper? Probably not. It'll take me maybe half an hour to figure out. So I totally understand that we become reliant on the technology and we use it as a shortcut, but I think that we also have to be conscientious of that and understand that, okay, well, maybe this is allowing me to not think as much as I used to, or to not memorize things like the phone numbers. I have important phone numbers memorized. I have important phone numbers memorized for years and years and years. But interestingly enough, there are numbers that, I use on a daily basis that I do not have memorized. So you're absolutely right when it comes to that. Now, when it comes to the technology, though, with ChatGPT, I truly believe that for me, it's been a little bit of an enhancement, a nice shortcut to the things that I want to do. Now, and I was thinking about our conversation yesterday because when we as coaches, when we already know and we have the expertise on how to help other people, we already know the kinds of things that we need to ask, what we need to listen for when people are speaking to us. With ChatGPT, the way that I have been using it in a way that is not 100% reliable, okay, that I'm not relying on it solely, I already know what I need to write about. I can speak about anything right off the cuff. I don't need to look at a list of questions or anything. I know exactly how to answer. But when I go and I speak, sometimes my thoughts are a little bit disorganized. So it does help me in organizing my thoughts. So, in a sense, yes, I'm using it to enhance what I already know without having to be completely reliant upon the technology to replace anything that may not already be there. So that's the distinction for me. Yes, we are going to look at things in a more practical way. We are going to be responsible with the way that we share the technology and the way that we use it ourselves. But we also have to be extremely self-aware to understand whether or not we're saying, okay, you take over, take the wheel, ChatGPT, take the wheel, and I'll just be right here hanging out and just going along for the ride. So yeah,
Well,
it's
that's just not
entirely.
gonna work, is it? That's really not gonna work. I mean, even I know that when I get stuff back, I have to check it, and I think add some personality into it because I've noticed that there are generic kinds of phrases that it uses, and I'm getting a little bit bored with it. So you do have to put your own personality back into it. I don't know if there'll come a day when it will be able to have these multiple personalities and it will be able to have more flavor to it, let's say. That may well happen because I don't know where the future's going. We're just at the beginning of this whole, let's say, roller coaster. Now, I know that you've got children as well, Mary, uh, and I had a son. He's no longer here, and he was grown up anyway, 23 years old. 23 years old, so he's no longer here. But you have young people, young kids. They're coming through. I'm concerned about how this is going to impact them. I don't know if you can tell me how it's rolling out for your kids in terms of school and education, because I'm really out of touch with that. But that's where, if I'm feeling that my brain is not being used properly, and I've been on this earth for quite some time, it will become quite normal for young people to have all this information to hand. I don't know what impact it's going to have, but perhaps you've got an insight.
Yes, absolutely. My daughter is 19. She's in her second year in college. My son will be 12 next month. And for him, technology is something that comes very easy. Of course, these kids, they have use of the iPad, they know how to use an iPhone. However, my son does not have an iPhone. And I believe that when it comes down to children, the responsibility falls on the parent. Just like I would tell my fitness, my wellness clients, you have kids at home, you are responsible for doing the grocery shopping. You are responsible for making sure that certain things don't make it into the household that are harmful to them, that could spike their sugar, make them gain weight, etc. And I believe it's the same thing with technology. So as a parent, my kids are very well aware of what I do. They see me using things on a daily basis. They see me speak, they see me go on video, but they don't necessarily use the technology. So there was a day, I would say maybe about a month ago, where my daughter, she's studying neuroscience. She wants to be a doctor. And she needed to create a study guide. And I told her, well, do you want to use ChatGPT? I can help you. And she said, nope, flat out said, nope, I don't want to use it. And I said, okay, well, you let me know when you're ready and we can come out with a nice outline. It's not going to spell out everything for you. But, fast forward to a week later, she came to me and she said, okay, I wrote out everything. Now let's see if we can create an outline. And I said, all right, put it in a PDF. We'll upload it and we'll have ChatGPT create an organized outline based on what you need to know for the exam. And that's what it did. So it did enhance her learning in a way without having to replace anything. But when it comes to technology, really, like, I just want to emphasize the fact that parents have the responsibility. Parents are the ones that are using the tech, maybe using social media, maybe sitting there and scrolling through in hours and hours, and the kids see that. So think about the example that you're setting every which way, whether it's a positive example or a negative example, and go from there, because children will not do what you say, they will do what you do. And if you are the type of person, again, who is constantly going after the likes and the validation on social media, your kids are going to see that. One thing that I have to say is that I do see a lot of moms posting and over filtering their images. And when their teenage daughters see that, they're going to do the same thing. So the over filtering is that lack of confidence. You're not willing to show yourself authentically. I think that with everything that we do with technology, we do have to keep all of these things in mind and become very aware of how we're using it, so that it creates a positive impact and not a negative one, especially with the children. You're muted, Joy. You're muted. There you go.
I'm muted there. Yeah, yeah. There you go. Thank you, Mary. I knew you were very technical. Mary, that was beautiful. Yeah, so everything you said there, I am 100% in agreement with that. The responsibility is not with the younger generation coming through in terms of monitoring the use of any new technology. The responsibility is ours. And yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're being really responsible with your 12-year-old. I mean, really keeping stuff back from him. So you are using it responsibly, which is lovely. AI is going to be the next thing which your son will be coming across. Your daughters already have the benefits from you of using it. Now, I haven't used AI in a very, let's say, I've used it in simplistic ways. My prompting of the questions is getting better. I'm getting better at, I suppose, looking at the answers and working out the discrepancies, sometimes whether it's false information, double checking, all that kind of stuff. You have been using it not just for business, and I was fascinated by that because it's never occurred to me to use it for anything other than business.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting. For me, technology is a part of my everyday life. Even though, for some of you who don't know, I'm very much in the fitness world. I'm still a fitness instructor. I teach fitness classes at the gym, and I still deal with clients all the time. So in my personal life, for example, I am going to tell you this. I don't think I've shared this yet, but the other day I went to see my doctor and my blood pressure was high. And my blood pressure has always been really, really good. I remember going to the cardiologist years ago and him telling me I had the best blood pressure of anyone he had ever seen. Okay. So my blood pressure spiked. And of course, as soon as I got home, I got on ChatGPT and I'm like, how can I reduce hypertension naturally? Give me some ways. And I also asked ChatGPT to give me some um, ideas on how to reduce it naturally, and then some of the common drugs available and the possible side effects. And that's what I did. So sometimes we are like, okay, help me write this social media post, or help me craft a business plan for this or that. But then we forget about the little things. Or how do I get my dog to stop biting his paw all the time, and it will tell you, it won't just give you a list of Google links. And I don't even go to Google anymore. I don't. I go straight to ChatGPT because I know that the information will be organized and it will be tailored specifically for me. And I don't have to go digging through a bunch of links like we used to. So now those types of prompts and the type of information that we're getting is so much more useful to me. I also went to Paris back in November with my husband. So one of the things I did is I went and I told ChatGPT, this is when we're going to be arriving. This is where we're coming from, because it will intuitively know that there's a time difference and we need to allocate time for jet lag and for rest. And I also was very specific with where I wanted to go, the distance from that restaurant to that place, and to take all of that into consideration in the 3 days that we were going to be there. So it's not going to tell me to go to one place and then go to another place that's so far away in the same day when I'm already in a specific location. You know what I mean? So these types of things, these types of applications have been very, very useful. Maybe saying, I have these 4 ingredients in my refrigerator, give me some ideas for a meal, for tonight, for dinner, or for lunch. So think of all the little things that you think of throughout the day and how it can help you to enhance that. Because where I come from in Peru, you go to the market every single day, and every single day you have to sit there and think, what am I going to cook today? As opposed to just going through whatever you already have and saying, okay, ChatGPT, I have these 3 ingredients, give me some options.
Right. You know what, Mary? As soon as we finish later on for lunch, I'm going to go and ask it some questions.
Yes,
What should I eat to, I've got this, and this in the fridge. What can I make with it? It'll come up with some answers, which is great. Let's
absolutely.
go over to some of the ethical questions around it because, obviously I'm a bit of a worry wart, even though I'm a therapist, and everything else. I worry a lot. So I have been worrying about the future. I have been worrying where AI is going. And unfortunately, I watched the film I, Robot again, some of it at the weekend with Will Smith. It's quite an old film. I hope that people have heard of it, I, Robot. But it is about a future, I think it was 2035, where robots are there to help human beings and work alongside us, but there's some kind of a rogue element going on, and there's some kind of plan to kill human beings. I mean, it's not a good thing to watch, but I don't like horror things. I shouldn't have watched it. It got me going again.
I
All
watched
about
it.
that. You watched it. It got me going again, and I thought, ooh. But there was also the element about use of robotics for good, and also robotics becoming more emotional.
Mm,
That was an interesting
yeah.
spin
Mhm.
because emotional intelligence, we think it's the humane domain, it's humans, belongs to humans. But what happens when robots take on the feelings that human beings have and can emulate some of the thought process that we have and link it to emotions? I mean, I don't know where that's going to go, even though you've said that you've enjoyed reading some of the answers from or hearing some of the answers from ChatGTP, and it sounds very empathic,
Mhm.
which is nice. I'm going to have to listen to it and see how it sounds. But this whole idea about the let's say humans losing, perhaps I think is the one thing we've got left which is going to separate us from robots, is that we can feel.
Right.
Yay,
Mhm.
if machines start feeling, I don't know what are we actually making ourselves redundant? This is what I'm thinking. I'll just say it
Right.
straight out. No dumb questions today. I've got a lot of dumb questions. Are we making human beings redundant? We've got lots of redundancies rolling out, full stop, because of AI being introduced, in industry.
Yeah.
But are are we sleepwalking into a situation where we are actually eliminating our role in society? It's a big question, Mary.
It is a
Sorry to
huge.
throw that at you, but you may have some spin on that.
Yeah, I think that there's a few different parts to your question here. And I believe that for the most part, yes, we are as a society walking blindly into things because as a society, most tend to be followers rather than independent thinkers. And that's part of the issue is that when it comes to this, you have to use your own discernment, your own common sense when it comes to adopting the technology and using it for yourself and how it is that you're going to share it. So there's a whole level of responsibility. And the conversation that we had yesterday was actually really, really good because we went into the responsibility that we have and how we can impact certain things to a certain extent. But then, of course, we have things out there that we don't see, that we don't know about. For example, the movies that you mentioned, how long has artificial intelligence been a thing? A lot longer than ChatGPT.
I
So we have
agree.
Terminator, for example, all of a sudden, as soon as ChatGPT came out, now it's like Skynet all over again. And what are we going to do? But this is something that has been referred to and talked about for decades, decades, even before the computer came out. So that's what people may not realize is that it has been a concept. And the reason why is because evolution will continue to happen regardless. It's always going to happen. It's going to happen in technology, and we had it with the car, with the telephone, with the telegraph, all of that, and it's going to continue to evolve. The problem is that in our humanness, we are not able to catch up to technology.
This is it.
So
Mm.
that is part of the issue. So as far as our personal responsibility, I believe that it's incredibly important to make sure that we are up to date as much as we can, that we keep an open mind so that we know what's coming. And if the technology is there for our good use, great, we can adopt it. But with that also comes the bad. Just like we are trying to use the technology for amazing things to help people, AI in science and in medicine has been absolutely wonderful. It's a blessing to have that. It's saving lives, it's helping people tremendously. But just like you have people who are trying to help others, you have people who are trying to harm. And what can we do about that? So
Yeah.
so that's the big question for me. I'm more concerned about the people who are already hacking, for example, and asking for millions and millions of dollars. And I mentioned this to you, the tech company that's involved with medical offices and hospitals, they were hacked and they had to pay, I think it was $23 million to these hackers. And for what? So they can dissolve what they have and come back, regroup, and do it again and continue to
And
act. Mhm.
absolutely, Mary. And like my concerns, I suppose, are that if we're sort of like sleepwalking into problems, we should be addressing them now. But using any technology for good or for bad is down to the person that's using it, and the fact that the good that will happen, advances are being made in technology. It's being advances are being made in medicine as well. It's being used in medicine in all kinds of ways. And I'm in touch with an MD on LinkedIn who was always sharing the ways in which he is using AI. I know that they're introducing ways of helping people to see therapists, whether it's cognitive behavioral therapists, but again, giving someone access to that, given the shortage of therapists that there are and the demand for what's there. So it's being used for good as well as bad. And, my thing, I suppose, is how could we stop it from going down that route? Perhaps there is no way of that happening, you
No,
know. And I've got a question here, actually. Let's think we've got a question. Yeah. So Orlando says that he believes that AI, when used properly, will enhance our own intelligence and our creativity, our contribution, our impact, and embrace this incredible life-enhancing technology. Orlando, I can see you are a flag-waving AI person. Yes. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, you know what? I'm going to have to just, calm myself down then in terms of my fears and pay attention. And where possible, if I do have concerns about what's happening, perhaps, you know, complain, join campaigns. There must be campaigners out there that are really ahead of me, join in, because I'm not in between people getting very anxious and very worried. My antidote to anyone who says that they're feeling worried and anxious is asking them the question, well, what can you do about it?
right.
If they can't do anything about it, then I would encourage them then to try and move beyond it and get into something else. If they can do something to change it, then get involved in the change. That's a very proactive thing to do, because we spend a lot of time worrying about things that we can't change. So I'm not going to get too anxious about the AI thing. I spent a whole year getting used to it. And I was very, very anxious at the beginning, and I was very, very overwhelmed by it as well. And I was concerned about, where is this thing going? It felt like something new was coming out every 2 or 3 weeks. There was something to do with drawing, there's something to do with this. I'm thinking like, oh my God, there's just too many things. But I've settled. I've settled now, and I'm going to embrace it. Orlando's given us some good pointers there in how to embrace it, and you are certainly putting us straight. In terms of the ethics around uh, AI, do you sort of dig a little bit deeper, Mary? How much do you get involved in some of the ethical side of what's happening? Because I just only hear
Mhm.
sort of like little tiny bits of it, and especially with the things to do with, um, for me, I know that all the AI things are just a combination of info they've gleaned from different sources. So I
Yeah.
suppose if I've got lots of information out there, at some point it's probably been gleaned and fed into this machine. Someone's turned their handle and it all comes out the other side. So your stuff, my stuff,
Yeah.
everyone that's watching all of their stuff, anyone that's got content out there, I'm sure they're just fair game for everything being taken. And I know that I've been using prompts where I say, oh, use the tone of Mary Massey to create me blah, 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 or use the tone of Anthony Robbins,
Mhm.
So I've been doing all kinds of things to try and get the tone of someone, because the information is out there. But the fact that it's gleaning information has made me a little bit more reluctant to put my stuff into it
Yeah.
sometimes, especially my details.
Mhm.
I thought, if I write in here that I am Joy Langley, I'm an EI mentor and a therapist, blah, 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 that's going to be there forevermore. And it's going to be fed into the whole machinery. But I don't know if that's me being a bit, again, paranoid, for want of a
Yeah.
word,
Well, you're
because personal details, everything, people might be feeding personal details in there.
yeah.
And they don't actually know how it's being used.
Yeah, I wouldn't put in any personal details, but it is a language learning model, and that's why you can have conversations with it. So it's not just like a Google where you go in and prompt, you say, give me whatever, or look for something out there, and it's going to give you a list of links related to the something. So with this, it is a language model. So it's meant to be conversational. It's meant for you to ask the questions. And the more you ask and the more you interact, it does learn your style. So for those of you who are watching who have a business, it's important that you understand how to use the tool to make it work for you. And for me, what I do when I do my workshops and I teach people is tell it as much as you can about your ideal client. Have it ask you questions. You can have it write you an amazing bio too. Let's say you're getting asked to do this thing or that thing and you don't have a proper bio, a proper biography. So you can have it interview you and ask you the questions, and it'll create a great biography for you. And then if you don't like it, you can say, make this a little bit more casual or make it more serious or make it scary. Let's add some drama to the situation. And it will do that. And that's exactly how I speak to ChatGPT. I'm like, let's add some more drama to the situation, I'll say. And it knows my style. It knows, and it'll say, yes, Mary, it knows my name, because in ChatGPT, there's an area in your settings where you can tell it who you are and what you do, so that you don't have to constantly keep asking the questions and telling it who the thing is for, or the information that you're trying to get is for. And then you can also tell it whether or not you want it to contradict you or challenge you. I mean, there's so many wonderful things that you can do with it, which enhance what you're doing. And it will enhance the way that you communicate, not just with your business people, but also with other people around you. It can help you to resolve conflicts because it takes the emotion out of things. And we know how important it is sometimes to remove the emotion from a situation so that we focus on facts and we focus on data. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what ChatGPT is doing. It's focusing on data to give you the information that you need. And there's something that you said earlier about therapy and everything. I don't know if you've heard of Pi AI. Have you heard of Pi?
I've heard the name, but I've not gone and used it. Yep.
Okay, so
Tell
I
me
would
some more,
encourage,
Mary. I'd love to know.
yeah, I would encourage everybody to just go and check it out. And it's different from ChatGPT. It's not OpenAI in that you go and it'll ask you how you're feeling and you can have a conversation. It's supposed to be your empathetic AI friend. So some people who may not be able to afford therapy are going and just trying to resolve certain things. And on the surface level, of course, if you want to go deeper, definitely speak to a professional. But there are times when I hear people saying, "Oh yeah, I asked Pi if Pi loved me," and I was like, "Okay, you need a little bit more, somebody there to help you through that." But I think it's become nice, and I used Pi a few times to ask certain questions and to say, "Okay, now how would you handle this situation?" And it's just another way of thinking. I think that at the end of the day, you're going to have all of these different data points that you're constantly bombarded with. And why not try to take a little bit from each one so that you can create your own reality and reframe your own thoughts and go from that?
Yeah. Well, you know what? If it is helping people to rethink, some of their emotional states and it's giving some good answers, I'm all for it because we all need good people around us. I'd like to think they've got friends that they can ask questions to. Now, what I've put up here is the way in which you can contact Mary. Session.marymassey.com. That's MARYMASSEY.com with session at the front. So session.marymassey.com. And Mary's got a special offer, which perhaps you can tell people about.
Yeah, absolutely. So this link is very special. It actually is a link to a 45-minute slot on my calendar, a complimentary coaching session. So where we can talk about all things AI, or maybe you're looking to do something for your business, for your social media, and you might be a little bit hung up on the tech, or maybe you're looking for strategy. So how can we strategize to help you put yourself out there more effectively, more efficiently? Are you running the right systems for your business right now? What is it that you need? So that's what this session is for. We will focus on one thing. And this is a great way also to see whether or not we have some nice, I don't know, rapport, I guess you can call it, see if we are for each other, and then we could take it from there. So rather than just giving people a 15-minute session, I'm going to start giving away once in a while. 45,
Sounds good.
yes, 45-minute
Sounds
sessions.
good.
Go
And
from
I've dropped that in the
there.
chat, so I'll probably go back and put it to the top of the chat. But yeah,
Yes.
that's session.marymassey.com. And you might also be wondering how you can get in touch with me. I'm on LinkedIn, so just go there and do have a look for Karen Joy Langley. Forgotten to say that my name's Karen as well. So Karen Joy Langley is what you'll find on LinkedIn. I do go under Joy there as well. And I would love to get anyone who wants to find out more about emotional intelligence, more on a one-to-one level in terms of personal awareness. Just have a chat. I'd love to know what your challenges are. I'd love to know, if I can help you in any way. But initially, the 15 minutes chat is just to say hi and to see how things are. And if there are ways we can take that further, we certainly will. So I will put my link in the comments again. But yeah, we got some great people that I've had some great guests on. You're number two, Mary. Last week I had a really good guest too. But I'm finding experts who really know their stuff and can have a really good conversation with me because the listeners will benefit. And today, I admit, I'm going to be asking a lot of dumb questions. There's no two ways about it because I just don't know enough stuff about that. But hopefully, people watching will feel the same as me and they'll think, yep, Joy, we're with you on that one. So I'm not alone. I'm not alone,
No,
Mary.
definitely not. And anything, there's a lot of information that I don't know about other things, but I've always been somebody who likes to embrace technology. Don't ask me about engineering or math. I'm dumb when it comes to that. So, we can call ourselves that, and it's just because it's not interesting enough to us. But I think that when you have a desire to learn more, you're going to look into it, ask questions. The only way to learn is to really ask questions. Otherwise, people will not know the information that you're lacking. So it's great that
Yeah.
you're doing this, and I'm so grateful that you're here. And for those of you who want to know more about Joy, we had an amazing podcast episode a while back. I'll see if I can find that episode, that link, and I'll reshare it on my LinkedIn profile because
That's very kind of you,
yeah,
Mary.
I
Thank you
interviewed
so
Joy.
much. Got
Yeah.
some feedback from Lisa, and Lisa's a menopause coach, so that's again a big issue to do with women,
Yeah.
uh, and some young women are going through menopause really early for different medical reasons. But Lisa, just giving you a big plug there. Lisa said this has been an eye-opening session. And thank you to me and to Mary Massey. Thank you so much, Mary, because I mean, at least, Lisa, I'm so glad that you've said that, because me and Mary have known each other for a while, and it's always a case of, you know, do we come on and have a chat about our normal stuff, or should I really just drill down into what I know she's really good at? Because she takes my breath away with what she knows. So thank you very much for that, Lisa. Much appreciated. So we've been doing some good stuff here, Mary, and I've been asking some very dumb questions and some very concerning questions for
Mhm.
me. Do I think that human beings are going to get dumber or smarter with AI? I I read an awful lot of other stuff, science fiction-y type stuff, and I've got a sense, funnily enough, Mary, that human beings may be evolving into something. Evolution. Now, evolution has taken a while to catch up, but if we start doing things, we're going to be getting into the fact that uh, if we don't use a certain part of our brain, perhaps it will develop into something else. And this neuroplasticity that our brain has, so if we repeat something often enough, that
Yes.
becomes the new norm, and things that are not used, they kind of like go into the background. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping that it's just an evolution that's going to be happening for human beings in the way that we're thinking, and hopefully the way that we're feeling. I'm hoping that it's a positive thing. I can never account for the bad stuff that happens in this world, Mary, but I like to think we live in a good
Yeah.
world with good people, and most people are really going to use this in a positive way to help us. And if it does help cure major like illnesses, you know, things like cancer, big things, that it can cure that, that would be great. And yeah, and I am positive, but I've also got a very sort of pragmatic side to me, which is, hang on, two sides to a coin. Come on, there's got to be two ways to look at things. And I encourage people to always use their own intelligence, you know, their own critical thinking, question things, become a leader in your own life, in your own mind, and not just get taken along with the flow of things. I have got taken along with this AI thing. I feel I've been got in the water, and it's taken me with it for a whole year.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm kind of stopping and thinking, right, what do I really want to do with it? How do I want to use it? And I just thought listeners would feel the same way, because they may not be as deeply involved as you are,
Right.
and certainly not as deeply involved as I am. And there are people that know very little about it. So this was an eye-opening session for me to just talk about leadership, emotional intelligence, awareness, you know, and if some of these new AI that are actually questioning emotional intelligence, you mentioned Pi. I have to go and use it again. I think I tried it once. I didn't go back to it, but you know,
Yeah.
perhaps as a former therapist, I'm kind of like a bit anti all of that, but I'm not really, because there are not enough therapists to go around, and we're living in an age where loneliness is going to be it's a growing problem. Uh, Human beings are possibly forgetting how to talk to one another,
Yeah.
and how to just communicate with one another. And I know that young people during the COVID had a hard time. Some of the ones that are just entering the sort of university spaces at that time, they really have not returned to studying with other people around them. It's been a bit of a tough time on an emotional level, and it's
Yeah.
created a lot of mental problems. So, you know, I'm all for machines, but I'm also all for being around human beings. I think that's really what we should also be promoting.
Yeah.
Be around more human beings, have more conversations. We
Mhm.
have so much to share with each other, even us today.
That's
So
right.
what I've
And I
learned
would
from
say,
you.
I would add to that, Joy, and say that use the tool to enhance your communication skills, because sometimes we just don't know what to say. Sometimes maybe you might be dealing with an issue at work or with a client, and you may be a little bit stuck on what to say, or maybe you might be a little too emotional when you're having conversations. So, how about you use the tool to maybe get some ideas on how to put yourself out there in a different way? How do you enhance your personality? So, rather than taking a step back and looking at the technology and saying, yeah, okay, it's going to minimize the amount of thinking that we do, or it's not going to allow us to really behave in the way that we should be behaving, it's going to replace this or that. Think of it as an enhancement, And think about the car, for example. I mean, where will we be without the car? You know, think of how people felt back then, the horse and the buggy, and all of a sudden here comes Ford. So it's been a tremendous enhancement. So I believe that when you do have a positive spin on things and you look at the benefits rather than the things that may not serve you, I think that you can really, really take advantage of the technology in a practical way. Like you say, you have to be pragmatic. You have to look at both sides. You have to always be aware of that. Don't just look at things blindly and just take people's word for things. Don't just get the prompts and the information from ChatGPT and say, okay, this is it. This is gold. I'm going to copy it and paste it the way that it is, because a lot of people do that. And I see it all the time, and y'all need to stop. Okay, take a moment to just reread the information, put your own spin on it, make sure that you're asking the right questions. I do this all the time for people. So if you're curious about learning more, definitely get in touch with me and just continue to be curious. Approach everything with curiosity, because that's how we learn. Ask the questions, ask the silly questions. There's no such thing as a silly question, just you wanting to learn more and wanting to better yourself. So that's the way that I look at things.
That's exactly it. And I must admit, Mary, taking a bit of information and not adding your own personality into it and everything else. I get why someone perhaps a bit younger might do it, or someone who doesn't think they're a good writer would do it. But you are a content creator, and the thing which is going to set us apart once the playing field becomes even, and we've all got access to the tools. Obviously, there might be people who don't have access to the tools around the globe because of the inequities that exist. But once the majority of people have the same tools, again, it's going to come down to creativity. So learning to add your own flavor to things, talking in your own voice, that's going to become what sets us apart from machines. And I'm hoping that we will always be a couple of steps ahead of the machines, just simply because we're humans.
Mhm.
But they're catching up, and perhaps we're going to have to expand the way that we think, or think in different ways, Mary.
Right.
The human brain has already evolved. So, perhaps this is forcing it to evolve in a different way. I don't know. I'm no major scientist, but
Did you see this
that's
question from Michael? I don't know if you can.
let's have a quick look. Let's have a quick look. Oh, right. Oh, that's a long question. Should I put that up there?
Yeah, go
Oh,
for it.
Michael, yes, yes. He's wondering if we have, as AI continues to advance, how can leaders proactively address the potential impact of emotional intelligence, AI and emotion intelligence AI on workforce dynamics, such as the change in job roles, skill requirements, and the need for reskilling and upskilling. Right. So I've got to read that again, even though I read it out once. Do you have an answer to that one,
Yeah.
Mary, while I'm thinking
Mhm.
about it?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of perspective. And when you say the skill requirements, I would say here's what the big fear is with AI technology, is that people think that jobs are going to get replaced. And yes, there are going to be times when the positions are going to become redundant, because now you have this technology that can replace what other people were doing. Now, here's the thing though, that if you learn to adopt the technology and make it work for you, you can enhance your skills and make yourself indispensable. You're going to be the go-to person for whatever it is that job requires. So I would say take a look at that. Take a look and see how it is that this tool can enhance what you already know, because again, AI is not going anywhere. And if you are an early adopter, you're going to be at an advantage, as opposed to somebody who's sitting there with their arms crossed, like, oh, I'm not going to do this. And that's going to be the first person to go. So if you look at ways to maybe enhance your skills, or maybe learn a new skill, because with ChatGPT, you can learn more. If you are somebody who works, let's say, at an office where you deal with all sorts of mathematics and engineering and science, and you're somebody who may not be well versed in those other things, in those other departments, you might see that department increasing in size, increasing in revenue, and you're maybe in a department that is not doing that, that might be let go. So how can you enhance those skills and make yourself indispensable and useful to that other sector within the company? So that's the way that I would look at things and say, okay, well, I have this now. What is it that I need to do? If I want to get promoted, if I want to advance, what do they have? What kind of knowledge do they have that I could also possess that will allow me to get to that level? Come on, ChatGPT. When you get home, you leave work, come home and start asking the questions, have it set up a course, because it can set up a course for you. Say, I want to learn this, I want to learn that. Let's do it in a way that it could be beneficial to me. Set up a course that I can come and sit down and spend an hour every day. You're going to quiz me to make sure that I know. You're going to make sure that I am tested and I'm proficient. And then when somebody's talking about the other thing that you may not know at work, now you can chime in and you can also share your expertise.
So you're
So
using it to
absolutely.
educate yourself, yeah. And I think in answer to the balance for me would be that helping yourself to just stay aware of what's happening for you. You know, our emotions are always going to be the way that our body tells us, you know, what's going on around us, especially when it's very sensitive to fear. So the stress response gets triggered very quickly. So a bit like what you said about pie, and I'm sure there are others. Um, but you know, just learning, who am I? Why do I function this way? Where are some of my ideas coming from? What other beliefs could I adopt, possibly? You know, so perhaps using it as your personal therapist, trainer thing. You know, that's really, I think that's how I would want people to use that. So you've applied the workplace thing. I've just applied the personal thing, which is just get to know who you are. Be curious about who you are. Work out what triggers you, what buttons get pressed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you mentioned about perhaps, you know, when you put things through AI, it will give you a much more measured way of saying something. Our first response, if someone's annoyed us, will not be the one that we use. We'll use the one that perhaps we've, you know, curated from an AI source, just to keep
Yeah.
us, so we don't lose our jobs.
Yeah, because it's all data points, right, Joy? Like even our own emotions, as you know, come from the data points around us. And what do we look at as data? Our upbringing, our own values, the way that external circumstances come into our lives, the way that people treat us, the things that people say to us. All of those things, if you look at all the data points and you're like, okay, I feel this way because now I know. So the self-awareness has to always be a very, very important key in our daily living, in the way that we think. We have to be constantly hyper aware so that we can, operate from a better place, from a more intentional and purposeful space. And that's how we handle everything. So I always say, how you do one thing is how you do everything, because you want to make sure that you are being super intentional and purposeful with the way that you're having conversations, with the way that you're interacting with people. So if we can use the technology to make us a little bit better, then why not?
I agree with you, and I would definitely use the technology to help you to understand yourself more, and not to be in a place where you understand yourself more, so you're not blaming everybody else for everything else. That's where it always goes to. We blame people for things that are happening to us because we don't have the tools or the theories to work out how to do things. Why is this happening to me? So if it's used in that way, I'm all for it, Mary. I'm going to put up your offer one more time because Mary has kindly offered to give you a session. So session.marymassey.com, and go there and definitely organize a time to talk to Mary. As you can see, she's an amazingly intelligent woman with so much knowledge. And if you do want to, you know, get a different spin, I'm more on the emotional awareness side than the tech side. You know, 15 minutes of joy. Have a talk with me. I'll put that in the comments as well at the end, probably add that in somewhere. But this has been a great conversation, and I'm glad that I've had this with you. I'm a bit hesitant. I just don't know enough, Mary. I feel a bit incompetent, you know, not as smart when it comes to this AI stuff. But we all have to start somewhere. And I just come out and say, hey, I'm a bit dumb at this, and you educate me.
Oh,
So
it's
thank you.
always a joy to speak with you, really. And thank you so much for wanting to do this with me, for asking me, and for being so gracious, sharing your audience with me, and just for being so fabulous. You just are.
Oh,
I've always told you you're like this little ray of sunshine, and I just love your entire energy, your aura, everything. love it.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, great comments as well from people who joined in. You know, Michael, I think Michael's got that word. It could be SHIFT, but anyway, we'll assume that
Yes.
that's what that should say. So
There's an F.
Mary said it's a paradigm, SHIFT.
Yes.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Michael. And Orlando, as again saying, been very, very enjoyable. Again, Michael, thank you. I appreciate that. It's great feedback. And
Thank you.
Orlando again, the AI technologies, embracing them. Otherwise, we might become extinct like a dinosaur. Orlando, how could you say that? Do I look like a dinosaur? No, actually. That's a good way to end. So we're on time, Mary. I appreciate you coming on today. And thank you, everyone, for watching. And I hope you gleaned a lot from it. Let us know what you've gleaned from it. Put that into the comment box. Would love to know. And it's been great seeing you. And I'll be back next week with another guest, different topic. But this week, the AI has been spot on. Thank you so much, Mary. And wherever you are around the world, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be listening to. And we'll catch up with you soon. And Mary, an amazing woman, so on the case with this. She makes it seem so easy. And it's good to see women getting into tech. Just thought I'd put that in because I got other people on LinkedIn who are all about women in tech. So thank you. So have a good time and see you soon, everyone. And thanks for joining us. Really appreciated your company. And we are off now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.